Flashpoint, South China Sea is a game that reflects contemporary events in, where else, the South China Sea. In this video, I will teach you how to play this game in a few minutes here today on Legendary Tactics. Flashpoint South China Sea pits the United States versus China in economic, diplomatic, and political rivalry, with a hint of military action. It's a game that packs a surprising amount of depth into a 30-minute playtime. First of all, let's take a look at the components. We have red cubes representing Chinese influence, and blue cubes which represent that of the Americans. We have some event cards, and scoring cards. And we have a map board. First, we have two boxes, one for China and one for the United States, where the cubes available for play are kept. Within this box, there is a box labeled Reserve. These cubes need to be moved first to the available sections by event or operation in order to be placed on the board. Also, each player has a track for political warfare, which I'll explain in a few minutes. Then we have the tension track, which ranges from low to critical. This will dictate what actions can be taken and at what cost. Anytime a player moves the tension track to the critical space, they must either move a cube from the available to the reserve box, or if that isn't possible, they must move one of the cubes on a diplomatic influence track to their reserve instead, if possible. The campaign track indicates the current round. There is also a victory point track along the bottom of the board. And in the heart of the board, there are 5 rounded squares, which are countries. The name of the country is here. And make note of the lock space. This is used after successful political warfare, which I'll get to soon. There are also some tracks of blue and red squares where cubes of that player's color can be placed. These can be on the economic or diplomatic track and are called influence. These influence cubes will be used for scoring victory points, among other things. There are also 3 areas in an oval shape. These are contested islands that are in dispute between China and the claimant country, as shown with these lines. In these spaces, the Chinese player places CR cubes on the tracks by taking a CR operation, which stands for Chinese Reclamation, representing China's claim in these locations. The US player places cubes in the phone-op spaces by taking a phone-op operation. Phone-op means freedom of navigation operation, which is done to demonstrate the right to free passage in that location. There are also 3 decks of cards. The main deck is called the event deck and has 48 cards. This is the main engine of the game. There are also 7 scoring cards, 1 for each country, 1 for scoring economic control, and 1 for scoring based on the relative control of the disputed islands. There is also a small deck of cards used in solo play that isn't pictured here. The setup looks like this. Each side places 4 of their cubes in the available box and 2 in reserve. The other cubes are placed on the map like this. Each side receives 2 cubes on the economic tracks of Vietnam and the Philippines, and 1 each on the economic tracks in Malaysia and Indonesia. This leaves each side 4 cubes each, which we will get to in a minute. The event deck is shuffled and placed face down, leaving a spot for a discard pile. A black disc is placed in the low space of the tension track here at the top. Another black disc is placed on the campaign track here at 1. The 7 scoring cards are placed face up near the map. It's preferable that you set these up in card order, indicated at the bottom center of the scoring cards. This is because they will be scored in this order at the end of the game. Then, using cubes, each player secretly bids for how many victory points they wish to give to the US player for the privilege of playing China, which allegedly has a bit of an edge in this game. Players hide a number of cubes in their hand and reveal them simultaneously. The player who bid the most cubes plays China and places the victory point disc on the blue victory point space matching their bid. If tied, randomly choose sides, placing the victory point marker on the blue US side matching the bid. Then the Chinese player places their 4 leftover cubes in any diplomatic or economic spaces in any of the 5 countries. Then the US player does the same with their 4 remaining cubes. Finally, deal 6 event cards to each player. So how does one win? If either side gets to the 15 victory point spot on their track, that player wins an instant victory and the game ends. Otherwise, whoever has the most victory points after final scoring wins. Each turn begins with the player with the fewest victory points choosing who goes first. If the victory point marker is at 0, China chooses. Then each player plays out their hands 1 card at a time. Event cards have 4 different ways they can be played. The first is for the event. A player can only play an event associated with their side. Red for China, and blue for the US. Black cards can be used by both players for the event. Execute the event to the fullest extent possible, and remember that if the event's text conflicts with a game rule, the card text always takes precedence. An event card can also be played for its operation value, which ranges from 1 to 3. A player can spend as many of these points as they like to perform 1 or more operations, as indicated on this menu, in any order. Just make sure to adjust the tension after each individual operation if necessary. The first use of operations is to place 1 influence cube in a country that is not locked by the enemy on either the economic or diplomatic track, at a cost of 1 operations point per cube. Secondly, a player can move 1 cube from the reserve box to the available box at a cost of 1 cube per operations point. The US player can spend 1 operations point to place a cube in a freedom of navigation operations or phone-op space. If the tension is not at critical, increase the tension by 1 step to the right for each cube placed this way. If the tension is at critical, a phone-op operation may not be taken. The Chinese player can place a Chinese reclamation or CR cube in one of the CR spaces, provided the tension track is not at critical. At low tension, this costs 1 operations point, and the tension is increased by 1 to medium. At medium tension, the operations point cost is 2, and increase the tension by 1 to high. At high tension, the operations cost is 3, and increase tension by 1 to critical. Don't forget to move 1 cube from available to reserve, or if there are no available cubes, 1 from a diplomatic track to the reserve. Another type of operation is political warfare. You can spend 1 operations point to place a cube in a political warfare space. These are banked until a political warfare operation is conducted. A political warfare operation costs 0 operations points and can only be done when tension is not critical and the player's side has at least 1 political warfare cube in place. To resolve political warfare, turn over the top card of the event deck. If the operations value of the card is greater than the number of cubes on that player's political warfare track, the attempt is unsuccessful. In that case, place all of that side's political warfare cubes to available and place the event card you drew face down on the bottom of the event deck. If the operations value of the card is equal to or less than the number of cubes in the political warfare track, the attempt is successful. Move all the cubes from that side's political warfare track to available. Select a country to lock. If there is already an enemy cube in that country's lock, you can move it to the enemy's available space. Place a friendly cube on the country's lock space, and move either all enemy diplomatic or all enemy economic influence cubes from that country to their available space. Increase the tension by 1, and place the event card that you drew face down on the bottom of the event deck. An event card can also be used for scoring impact. If the scoring card indicated here is face up, the player can execute it and turn the scoring card face down so it can't be scored again this turn. To score a country, total each side's cubes in the country named on the scoring card, including all economic and diplomatic influence, the lock, and if there is a disputed island attached, the phone-op and CR cubes there are included in the count. Decide the positive differential score, and that country scores that many victory points, moving the scoring disc along the victory point track to reflect this. Remember that each scoring card has a cap on how many victory points can be scored in each instance. If a player scores economics, 1 victory point is given to each side that has the most economic cubes in a given country. The total number of cubes does not matter, only 1 victory point is scored per country. When scoring CR phone-op, compare the totals of all CR cubes to all phone-op cubes on all contested islands, and the side with the positive differential scores it as victory points to a limit of 4. Finally, an event card can be used to match the mode. Each card has one of 3 modes: military, territorial, or trade. Essentially, if you match the mode of the top card on the discard pile, you can use that discarded card as if you'd played it for yourself. If the top card on the event card discard pile is friendly, and if the mode of the card you are playing matches that event card, you can choose to resolve either the discarded card's event or that card's scoring impact. Please note that you can't use that card's operations points, but only the event or scoring impact. After everyone's cards have been played out, in the first and second campaign, players do a short reset. First, deal a fresh hand of 6 cards to each player face down. Turn all the scoring cards face up again. Move all lock and phone-op cubes to that side's available space. Remember that the CR cubes are not moved at this time, as they stay on the contested islands between campaigns or rounds. And each player moves 1 friendly economic influence cube in each country to their available space. Move the tension marker 1 space to the left, thereby reducing the level of tension in the region. Then move the campaign track or round marker to the next higher space. After the third campaign has been completed, turn all the scoring cards face up and score them in card number order, beginning with Brunei. If at any point a side reaches 15 victory points, it is an instant victory for that player, and the game is over immediately. Otherwise, once all the scoring cards have been tallied, whoever has the most victory points at that point wins the game. If the scoring marker ends up in the 0 space, the game is a tie and no one wins. This is how to play the board game Flashpoint, South China Sea. We hope you will give this great little game a chance, and hopefully this video concisely showed you how to play. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you here next time on Legendary Tactics.